Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Now, I won't lie to you, when I saw this trailer, I kind of laughed at it and was like, oh man, this is like a total ripoff of Saw, only with like a merged concept, like some merged concepts from Cabin in the Woods. And after I watched the trailer and we got closer and closer to this movie, and I saw, some TV spots and it was just around more, I actually started getting excited about this movie. I don't know why either. Just call it a guilty pleasure, I suppose. But I actually think this movie pulled most of itself off. I was fairly impressed with a good chunk of this movie, although it stumbles pretty hard in the third act. But we'll get there. First things first, you gotta pull up that chair. You gotta take a seat. We are getting ready to dive into spoiler-free Escape Room. That's right, man. I actually got really excited about Escape Room. So much so, like, when I got into the theater last night and it was sold out, I, like, literally bought a ticket and there was a one seat on, like, the far left. I was like, let's go. Seat is for me. And I was jacked, man. I was packed crowd. People kind of were. It felt like there was a good vibe going, and I got really jacked. And this movie, surprisingly, was enjoyable for the first two acts for sure. And then kind of trips up a little bit in the third act and gets ridiculously ludicrous compared to what had previously happened. So let's dive into this story. That comes from Bragi F. Schutt and Maria Melnick. And, they do a really good job of giving us a cast of characters that you actually are able to attach to. And we spend, specific time at the very, very beginning with three of these six main characters. We start with Ben, played by Logan Miller. We hang out with Zoe, played by Taylor Russell, and Jason, played by Jay Ellis. And establishing those three characters at the beginning kind of leads to a fault of the movie, because in doing that, you get more of an insight on those three characters first, and you're kind of not rooting for, but like you're now like, oh, I know these guys when we get to the escape room. So you can kind of figure out who's gonna go when pretty easily. It wasn't too hard to figure out when people were gonna get knocked off in this movie. So that was a little disappointing, but I'm also a seasoned vet, so it was a little traditional in that sense. But what they do with these characters and their stories and these rooms, wow, man. Take the idea of Saw, and there are elements that are similar. There are also elements that are very, very original. And the thing that I thought worked so well, even more so than the later Saw movies, were the individual rooms were unbelievable from a design standpoint. You just sit there and you watch some of these rooms and you're just like, wow. Then bake in how these rooms play into each character's story and help us in learning the full stories of all of these characters. Really, really interesting. Really, really effective in connecting you with these characters. After the first one goes, and that person kind of makes sense, and we're probably the least attached to him out of all of them. But after that, the remaining five, I found myself very attached. Like, I was like, I don't want to lose anybody in this grouping. And then, of course, as the movie goes, you kind of start to dislike a couple people. And you're like, yeah, I'm all right if they go. But for the most part, as things start going, you really get like, no, please not that one. Don't, oh no. And that stuff was really good. And like I said, it's the way that the rooms and the story connect to each other and it kind of unfold and unravel for us to learn about all of these characters. And they all have a common trait that makes them very, very unique. And the concept behind that trait and how that plays in the movie, I thought was one of the more interesting and original things that you could take by saying, hey, Saw did this. Let's try to adapt some things and maybe take some things from over here, but deliver a story that is different in certain ways that I found to be very, very effective. And then, like I said, the design of the rooms, wonderful. The waiting room. That's the first room we end up in. In the trailers, we see it turn into an oven. Really, really clever how that whole room plays out with all the clues, the way these all function as escape rooms. I was like, if these rooms weren't killing people, these are actually escape rooms that could be a lot of fun to go to. The outdoor winter room, really, really interesting, and definitely get some real good story stuff in that room. And we get to spend a really more intimate kind of time with our characters, and that was the one room where I really started to get connected to people. Then you get to the upside down bar. Wow, dude, that room, the structure of that room, you spend about 25 minutes in there. That's another problem we'll get to. We spend significant amount of time in the first 3 rooms. Like 10 or so plus minutes, then like 15 plus, and like 20 plus. And the bar room, the structure of it's just so genius. The way it's structured for the characters to move around. And, it's like you say, oh, it's genius from the movie standpoint because you're making a movie. But it's like, no. It also has to be like that for the escape room to work. It was just so clever. I just wanted to live in that scene for the whole movie. I think it's the best stretch of the film. You really build really, really good suspense during that stretch. Really, really emotional impact moments. And just stuff that worked really, really well. The problem with this movie, it takes such time and effort in those first few rooms that the movie kind of starts to lose it toward the end as we get to the medical room. And the first half of the medical room sequence is awesome. It fully reveals what's going on with all the stories, why all these characters are together. I love that. Then the escape room starts, and that room and that scene doesn't quite work for me, specifically because of Taylor Russell's character. What happens to Zoe makes sense with her character, but is like really, really tonally off from what she is the rest of the movie, and it kind of lost its footing there, and then the pacing the rest of the movie just was not very good. The remaining rooms happened very, very quick. It was like all of a sudden, boom, 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 we've lost a bunch of people, and now we're down to a smaller group, so these rooms are going to move really, really fast. And you lose some of the suspense and stuff, and then they throw like 3 huge twists at you at the end of the movie that, like, I liked the idea, but just didn't play very well on screen. I was not a huge fan of the third act of this one, and I think some of the things it did with its characters, and then somehow, some way, figured out a way to set up a sequel, and I actually thought the end was very strong. I liked how it kind of set up the sequel, but again, I'm like, these characters don't quite feel the same, and I understand that they need to change, but some of it, it was kind of off. That's just the movie part, man, and it was really, really interesting and fascinating to watch. This cast, though, I think is what really made this movie for me. Taylor Russell, who you would be familiar with if you've watched the newest Netflix version series of Lost in Space. Excellent. I love Taylor Russell in this movie. She's so good. She's kind of a keep to yourself, really, really super smart kid. And the way in which her brain works throughout the whole movie, I just loved, which is why the third act, I didn't, because her character changes so drastically. And it does tie to something that we know about her character, but it didn't quite gel. But overall, I thought Taylor Russell was phenomenal. Our other lead, Logan Miller, also does a really good job. He's kind of like this overall screw up. He's working at a grocery store. Same thing. I mean, they're all kind of loners. But I liked what Logan Miller was doing with that character. It's very effective for what Ben needed to be. Jay Ellis, who's the last of the 3 that we start with at the beginning. I enjoyed Jason. Someone who wants to play the game. He doesn't like losing. And early on, that comes off kind of charismatic and charming, and then, some twists happen with his character. We learn some things about his character, and ultimately, he becomes the guy that you hate the most. And Jay Ellis is very good at playing both sides. He does make you like him. He is very charming, but when he goes to, I don't want you to like me anymore, you really don't like him. And I thought that was excellent. Nick Dodani, who plays Danny, solid. He's a kid who's been to like 93 game escape rooms, knows all of them. He brings a lot of positive energy early in the movie, and get you to laugh a couple times. So I enjoyed his performance. Mike, who's played by Tyler Labine, really solid. I actually got really, really funny moments from him. And his character had like just, I don't know, there was a heart to his character that I don't necessarily know was written into the script, but just watching Tyler Labine's performance, I was like, oh, I love Mike. I just, he's so charismatic on screen. I really enjoyed his performance. And then my girl, man, another of those True Blood alums that I just am so glad is crushing it out in the bigger universe. Deborah Ann Woll, of course, I'm sure many of you now familiar with her from Daredevil. Excellent. I really liked her story, and where she comes from and how that plays in the movie. I think she does a really, really good job. I loved watching her and Taylor Russell interact. Amanda and Zoe's connection in this movie and interactions are really, really awesome, and some of the really solid emotional beats that actually connect in the movie. I was kind of surprised by. And like I said, I like how we learn about all of their backstories and how all their backstories are present in the escape rooms. All that stuff was just so fascinating and so well executed that it was super disappointing when the third act kind of started to stumble a whole bunch. And as it got really, really ludicrous and ridiculous, I was like, oh, you had me, until we got almost to the finish line. So Escape Room comes up a little short, but I tell you what, I'm in if there's a sequel. And I really thought it was quite creative and inventive. The first two acts are just really, really solid in this one. And I was surprisingly enjoyed Escape Room much more than I thought I would. So there you go, man. Escape Room. There was so much to talk about, man, because the craftsmanship and the design of these rooms, just spectacular, man. Just so impressive. So that's all I've got to say about Escape Room. I want to know your thoughts, man. Are you interested in going to see this, or did you have my initial thoughts, right? Like, oh, here we go. We're going to try to get Saw going again, just in a different way. Give it a chance, man. I think it'll surprise you. If you have seen Escape Room, what did you like or not like about it? Did you think that the room designs and stuff really elevated the film? Did you like the acting? Where does it trip up and stumble, or just was it a mess from the get-go? Let me know everything you're thinking down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and then hit that subscribe and little bell, man. If you are new here, come join the Cinema Sit-Down squad. Hit that bell, get alerts every time I make a new video. For the C-Man Cinema Sit-Down, I'm the C-Man, and I'm signing off. Peace. Well, as I live and breathe, you still here? Check out a video like this one, or this one, and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit-Down.